everyone, so we are back and we are going to do another review video today. Since I'm kind of out of commission and can't actually paint furniture right now, I'm kind of trying to catch up and do some of my videos that I've been wanting to shoot and put out for you guys. So we are going to do another review video today. This one is going to be on the Rustoleum milk paint. Now, I picked this up while I was at the Home Depot the other day, getting the Rustoleum chalked paint, which I literally just put out that review. So if you're interested in the chalked, go check that one out. It's up on both my YouTube and my Facebook business page. So go check that out. They are different paints. This is their milk paint. This is not a true casein milk paint. And what does that mean? It's not the chippy milk paint. This is going to mimic a milk paint look as far as it's supposed to not cover the grain. It's supposed to enhance the natural look of the wood. I'm reading that from earlier right off of the label because that's what they say. And it will have a slight sheen to it, probably a little more so than the matte chalk paint. So that is what we're going to do today as a review on this. So let's go ahead and tip the camera down. I will get started. We're going to use one of my typical practice boards and my Klingon brush as usual. I always try to stick with the same tools, if you will, when I'm trying different review paints, because then I know it's not the tools, it's the paint if something is different. So we're going to go ahead and use the Klingon brush, the primed board as usual, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm a little curious because I use a different line of milk paint. It's also not a casein based milk paint, a non-chippy milk paint, if you will. And the finish is, I think from what they're describing on here, is going to be totally different. So I bought this out of curiosity because after reading the label, I was kind of like, not sure that that is something that I'm gonna like. Let me actually, before we tip the camera down, read to you what it says. Now, keep in mind, I gotta hold it back a little bit of ways because it is tiny. But basically what it says is it will create a unique brushed effect that enhances surface details, perfect for furniture and decor pieces. I'm not exactly sure what to expect from that description. So let's go ahead and put this on. I don't want to see anything that's got a brushed look, but it says it like 2 or 3 different times on the label. It actually says it right here in the front. I don't know if you guys can see that. Brushed. I don't know. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. I did open this up off camera. I went ahead and stirred it up really well. I chose this color called Highland Blue. It's gorgeous. Actually mimics like the duck egg blue look. So I'm excited to see how it looks on the piece. So right off the bat, I always like to show you guys the consistency of the paint. This one is also very thin, kind of like the chalked paint that I just did the review on. Very thin paint. So let's go ahead and put it down on our board and see what we think. So let's talk about a couple of differences between the Rustoleum chalked paint and the Rustoleum milk paint, in case you're kind of trying to decide which product might be better for you. The milk paint says right on the bottle, it is a build to opacity, more of a sheer coverage. So it's a buildable coverage. It's not going to claim to be a 1-coat coverage or probably even 2. I'm not exactly sure, but it does say that it is a more sheer coverage. I looked online and compared the 2 products, and that was one of the major differences. Is that this one is buildable and less opaque, and the chalked paint is a very opaque, covers in 1 to 2 coats. So I can tell you that, first of all, laying this down on the board, I didn't go too thick with my paint. I'm gonna grab the edges here while I talk to you guys. And it went on really nice. As always, I have wet down my Klingon brush. I like to work with a wet brush. It helps the paint glide and slide on a lot easier. And so far, I'm kind of liking how it's going on. Some of the paints can tend to, stick or drag on that first coat. So it was pretty smooth. Sorry, I just kicked the camera there. I have a cast on, so it's kind of clumsy still with it. But I'm not under impressed, let's just say that, with the way that this first coat laid down. Let's go ahead and let this set up. Come back. The dry time on this one says 30 to 60 minutes. So we'll go ahead and let this set up. It definitely is gonna need a few more coats, so let's just see how many more coats we're gonna require. But so far, the first coat went on really easy. A lot easier than the chalked went on, in my opinion. So I'm gonna wrap up my brush and we're gonna come back and I'll show you guys the first coat up close like I always do, okay? All right, we are back. We have let that first coat set up. It's been about 30 minutes. And the dry time for this is between 30 to 60 minutes to go ahead and handle it. About an hour to recoat, so keep that in mind. Now, temperatures will drive that as well. Typically on the back of most paint labels, they're gonna put that. Optimal temperatures are between 75 and 77 for that dry time that they're quoting. So like today, it's cold and rainy here. It actually dried as faster than I thought it would. But keep that in mind when you're working, that that weather will dictate how fast your piece is going to dry. I always suggest going with what they recommend on the back of the label, if not just a little bit more time, because the worst thing you can do is start to reapply paint when it's not fully dried yet. So I'm going to show you guys up close on camera how the piece looks after one coat. Here we are here. You can obviously see that is not an opaque paint. It doesn't claim to be. It actually says that it's a buildable opacity. So one coat, two coats is probably not gonna give you that full coverage if that's the look you're going for. I don't think this paint's intention is actually to have that full coverage look. I'm gonna give some comparisons to the chalked paint of Rustoleum that I just did a review on. That paint is opaque. Its claim is one coat coverage. I did two, and it is extremely opaque. It was very opaque on the first one, but did have some peek through. This one's intention, I don't believe, is to be that. You can see the difference in the paint here. It's really rough, actually, since I'm feeling it. I have to share that with you guys. This is not a smooth paint. It's kind of throwing me, actually. It's very gritty, and honestly, I would never let a piece go out of my workshop like that. The first thing, I'm kind of sidebarring here, but it just kind of threw me when I felt this. The first thing most clients do when they come in is they put their hand on the piece of furniture. If I did that, I would go, ooh, that feels kind of weird. And that's not an unusual thing for people to do. I noticed that I've done it before when I've been in a store. I don't know why, but we want to feel it. It's not smooth. So before we put that second coat on, I'm gonna go ahead and knock this down off camera with my 220 grit sanding block and see if that can help, because honestly, that would be a huge deterrent for me in using this paint ever again if that is the way it's going to feel. Now, it does say on the back of the label that it does have a textured feel to it. I don't like it, so I'm gonna try and remedy that part of it. But like I said, as you can see, there's a lot of inconsistencies here in the coverage. One of the things that it does say is it's supposed to give you that brushed effect. That's not my jam. So if that's how this is supposed to look in its final stages, it's gonna definitely not be something I'm used to. I do a full coverage look on 99.9% of my pieces. So this is good though. I like trying new things and checking it out and seeing, but it does say that on the label. It's to mimic a brushed effect look. So we'll see what we come up with on our second coat and after that one dries. But and then we'll do some more recapping and some information about the paint itself. Okay, so let's go ahead together and get that second coat on and see how that lays down and how our coverage is with the two coats. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and lay down that second coat and see how it goes on. I really do feel like the smoothness is there with this paint. I mean, this is like super easy. It's gliding right on. So application of this paint, I actually really like. It's very similar to some of the other paints that I use on a daily. So I really am liking the application in comparison to the Rustoleum chalked. 100% better. That paint, I had a hard time first and second coat getting that paint to lay down. You saw I dipped into my paint one time and I'm working it and working it and working it, which I have a tendency to do because I like to get that ultra perfect non-brush stroke finish. So I'm able to work this several times over. So application, I do like. Color is really pretty. God, I really like this color. It's in between like a duck egg and a minty blue. So very pretty. So let's go ahead and let this one set up. I'll be back in about 30 minutes. We'll look at the second coat together and we'll talk more in depth about the product and what I think of it. All right, we'll see you guys in just a minute. We are back. We have put on the second coat. I did go ahead off camera, like I said I was going to, and I used my 220 grit sanding block to knock it down because I wasn't digging the texture. And it was smooth, but once I applied that second coat and it dried, it has that same rough textured feeling. That's just the paint. It says it right on the label, so they are telling you that it is gonna have some texture to it. If that bothers you, it bothers me. I don't really love it, so I would do the 220 grit sanding pad again and then put my sealer on, and you're gonna alleviate that weird gritty feel. It is very gritty, so just so you know. This is the practice board finished up close. The coverage is really great. That's 2 coats. It does have a very slight sheen, more so than the chalked paint, but it is still pretty flat in my opinion. So if that's not the look you're going for, definitely throw a sealer on that and maybe change that with a satin finish. If this is a look that you like, then you're really gonna like the finish on it. The application was fairly easy. I didn't have any problems dragging or sticking. It was a very thin consistency and it laid down very nicely on both coats. So for that, I would say I really did like this paint, the way that it laid down. I don't like how it dried down though. I don't care for the texture, and I myself am not, I like a little sheen to my paint, so I would definitely seal it as well with a satin sealer so that I had a little more sheen to it. But you know, it's not a bad paint. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I tell you in all my review videos, and that is, it is my experience and my opinion, and I'm sharing that with you guys. You might have a different experience and a different opinion on this paint. Would I buy it again? Probably not. Only because I just didn't dig the texture and the fact that the Rustoleum line has a very limited amount of colors. 9 colors is not very many. They do have some colors though that are a little bit better where you can mix and match. So if that's something that you don't mind doing, you might be able to get away with making more of your own colors. I like having a very broad spectrum of a color range, and there are so many paint lines out there that do have that. So I don't, not loving that part. You know, but it's all in all, it's not a bad paint. In comparison, I like it way better than the chalked paint. The chalked paint, if you want to watch that review, I just went ahead and posted that one up. I just didn't care for that. That just wasn't my jam. I wasn't loving it, and there was a few things that I found really difficult with the paint. But this one, if I were comparing the two, if I'm standing in Home Depot and I'm thinking, which one should I try, the milk one or the chalked? I would recommend the milk paint, especially if you're a beginner, because laying down paint, you know, it takes practice as far as getting your technique down. And so this was really easy to apply, much easier I felt than the chalked paint. So, you know, give it a go. It is a decent price point. I did say I was gonna check that for you, and I did double check. It was $24.98 at my Home Depot. That may vary if you order online. I had seen a couple of different prices between $24.98 and $27.98. So, but the price point for what you're getting is, that's a lot of paint. And that will yield several pieces. In my opinion, you could probably get maybe even 2 full dressers out of it, or a dresser and some nightstands. So there's a lot of paint in there. So I will definitely use this around the workshop. I'm not sold on whether I would use it to sell a piece. I did love this color. This is a fabulous color. So all in all, it's not a bad paint. but it's definitely just not for me. So anyway, thanks you guys for being subscribers. Keep subscribing. Pass me along to your friends and family if they're interested in these type of videos. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below and I will make sure that I get back to you. And I will catch you on the next review. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.